Well, me and the old lady are doing this video.
Here's one for you. Any tips for a father who struggles to keep his cool or be patient with his children? What's the first thing you liked about each other? What was the first thing you didn't like? Maybe we should eliminate the last.
You're given the privilege of being their parent, which is like more central.
I don't think I'm a workaholic. Or do you think I am?
I wish we could have a nice, our 5 family rules or whatever, but what I'm saying is somehow you have to get beyond the self part.
You're gonna pull that as my strongest one.
It's a strong one.
Okay.
It irritates me sometimes, but
Hey everybody, welcome back. We're doing another Q&A. Yeah, it's kind of all like couples, family related, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. Yeah.
that's us.
That's us. Before we jump into the questions, I want to let you guys know that today's sponsor, FlexiSpot, is running one of the biggest sales they've had this year for Black Friday, where many of their products will be more than 50% off, and even their best sellers will be discounted. If you've been on this channel for any length of time, you know how much I love my standing desk from FlexiSpot. It's the Comar all-in-one standing desk, EW8. With its minimal design and this setup, it's not cluttered. So when an area is clutter-free, I feel like it's also clutter-free more in my headspace, and then I can work better. Some of the things I really love about this particular desk is it has a little pull-out drawer. It's a pretty big mess right now, but a lot of standing desks don't, but it's just small enough to still give it the minimal design, but to tuck away papers and pens and a few odds and ends like that. And then it also has a charging port here on the side. It has 4 different programmable settings that you can adjust the desk to different heights. And I like the wood top finish. So if you want to check them out, I'll have links down in the description where you can go and check out their Black Friday sale. And if you decide to get one too, let me know what you think. Now let's get back to the questions. First off, how long were you married before you had Xander?
4.5 years.
4.5 years, yep. How did your marriage change after having children?
I don't know. I mean,
We were so much more free-spirited before.
Yeah, you can't just like go out to eat some evening, or we used to once in a while go to B&B for the night just for fun.
He had a thing every half year we would go to an Airbnb and he'd surprise me. That was always fun.
Yeah, that kind of wasn't possible anymore, or much harder.
Time together is so much harder to get. And that question came up a lot. How do you plan date nights?
We're pretty
What
poor at
date
it.
nights? Right. Yeah.
Well, shortly after Xander was born, you got sick with UC, and so that kind of changed things too. So
That was what, 6 months after Xander was born. I got UC, and then it just seemed like for the next few years it was just a battle of doctors and health, and just our lives changed so much, so that when I actually got better, it was almost like a whole different life that we had. It was almost my health that did more of a...
I would say your health was more of an
adjustment
than Xander, because
it was all sort of over the same time.
I mean, yeah, a baby doesn't always sleep well through the night, but they do sleep a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of good God doesn't give you a 2-year-old all of a sudden.
Or a 5-year-old.
Well, yeah.
Right out of the gate. Yeah, that's true. How are you intentional in teaching living the gospel for your children? Something that I feel is often on my mind, and I'm sure most parents' minds.
Yeah, I wish we could have a nice, our 5 family rules or whatever, but we're kind of finding our way through this.
I find for myself, like, focusing more on me and my walk and my Christian walk, and like, what am I doing to improve my personal walk with Christ?
Right.
And what am I doing to live out that so that my children can just witness that? I think that sometimes we stress so much over, are we teaching them all the right things, and we really should. But I think sometimes we need to be more intentional about how we're living.
Yeah, I mean, it's cliche, but more is caught than taught, and I think that's true.
In your early days of marriage, did you both have an ideal number of children you wanted? Has that number changed after the hard work parenting entails set in? I didn't really have a set number. Did you?
I didn't either. No. I mean, your family is complete at any time in its existence, regardless of who's in it. Like I said, I didn't really have an ideal number, and yeah, I can't say, I mean, as much work as parenting is, I don't think it's really changed that much.
Right.
I mean,
you can never predict how life is going to treat you. So many different factors. Maybe you can't have children, maybe there's a big space for whatever reasons, I don't think we should just go into it and always have a set number and this is what I want. And
Yeah,
God works it out. I mean, it is in God's hands too. And
right. If God gives us some more, that would be awesome. If He doesn't,
we're
I mean,
happy
we have
with
a
our
pretty
two.
complete family as it is. So yeah.
What was the most challenging part about transitioning from 1 to 2 children? Also, what's to you the most rewarding thing about being a parent?
I don't know. I feel like it's hard to answer the first question because Lexi is still a baby, and so you're not really dealing with 2 different personalities.
And
But-
she sleeps amazing. Like, she just came into our family. We hardly even knew. We already had a family structure, so she just sort of fit in, and much easier than just the first one for sure.
Yeah, I'm guessing once she's 2 years old and walking around, then
And
it's
getting
gonna feel
into each
different.
other's skin a little bit and stuff.
Yeah.
What was the most rewarding thing about being a parent? I don't think you know quite how much you love a child until you have your own. Seeing them develop their own personalities and interests, and
Yeah, the fact that you're given the privilege of being their parent, which is like more central than, I mean, it's kind of scary.
it is the
their-
responsibility. And
Yeah, what their take on life is because of your influence.
yeah, exactly. That one's a hard one to answer, at least for me.
That's
I would
right.
like to hear any parenting tips that you have. Your children seem to have such a special bond. How do you encourage that bond? I don't really know if there's really an answer to that. I just think Xander's personality tends to be a little more soft-hearted, tender-hearted.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I personally think if you have peace in the home, that's a huge, like, between us, like, we try if we're having an argument or something that we don't do it in front of Xander. It does happen some, and even if it's like a slight one, he picks up on it so fast.
We don't have arguments.
No, we don't have any arguments. Anyway, as I was saying, it just seems like all this Q&A thing, like, we have things figured out and we don't. A lot of this stuff we don't. So we're just kind of giving our thoughts, but we don't have life figured out.
Yeah.
We're just doing our best. Here's one for you. Any tips for a father who struggles to keep his cool or be patient with his children?
Nah, I'm not the wrong person to give tips.
You're doing way better though. I'd say you're mastering it. You've got an immense amount of patience, especially compared to when we first got married. You do really well.
Yeah.
I think you do better than I do. I know you do, actually.
I wouldn't say that.
You've worked hard on it, so what's your tips?
I guess work hard on it. I mean, it's not a healthy behavior to have to fly off the handle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not even just being angry, but just being like unpredictable.
Yeah.
Is probably not good either. Not
That's
that you
probably
have
more-
to just be, this stick in the mud that doesn't do anything different, but
It causes instability in children.
Yeah.
It's a lot of unpredictable. What happens in your church if one becomes a single parent no matter the circumstances? We actually have a single parent in our church. She's amazing.
she's an amazing
Her
lady.
husband left her, and she's raising 2 children pretty much on her own. I think people think that because we don't do divorce and remarriage, that suddenly if someone splits, it's looked down on. We try to keep families together, but it's the separating can happen. Sometimes it needs to happen. It's the remarriage that does not happen within our circles as long as the other partner is still alive. So that's probably where that question was coming from. Here's some more light ones. Where is one place you would like to live if you could not live where you are? And is there anywhere you can't see yourself living? Would your second pick be back out west? Or maybe that'd be your first pick, where you grew up?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Like, would you prefer living there to here?
No, not really. I
Yeah.
mean, this feels like home now.
Yeah.
But
Any place you can't see yourself living?
probably like inner city somewhere.
Yeah, that would be
don't
difficult,
know.
I think, for
I
me
mean,
as
it would
well.
be. I like to visit cities, but
You could live there for a season, but long term it would be difficult for
Yeah.
me. For me, I hate desert. Like anything dry or anything like super dreary. So desert or like really rainy areas.
jungle in the desert.
Yeah.
Two extremes. You don't appreciate.
Yeah, that where I could live out west. Colorado is beautiful. Do we have a special vacation fund? How do you plan and save for a big trip? I feel like I've kind of talked a lot about that on videos. We use a lot of credit card points, and then we see what the cheapest destination is, often with airplane tickets, and how much our points can cover, and then if we have enough left to go somewhere. Kind
We do kind of like have a fund or whatever that we put money into for.
a fun, like extra.
Yeah, when we say we use credit card, we try not to go on a trip and then pay for it later.
Right, it's more the credit card points.
But yeah.
Yeah, we make sure we have the money for it. Where was your favorite vacation spot and what made it your favorite? I think for me, Paris was one of the highlights, and then also recently our recent trip to Switzerland was amazing. Mm-hmm. Those two are like my favorites. And I think it also had more to do with like the time we had together and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And Paris is just amazing. It's just romantic.
Yeah, for me it'd probably either be, I mean, I liked our Switzerland trip, but it's probably a toss-up between Barbados and Paris.
Yeah, Barbados was amazing. The culture and everything there. Have either of you ever done a mission trip or been involved in overseas ministry or even a stateside ministry apart from your church? We would have more back when we were single. I went on quite a few mission trips back when I was in the youth.
I went to Bangladesh in 2008. Makes me old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like rebuilding. They had, I guess they call them typhoons over there, but we were doing some rebuilding through Christian Aid Ministries, which was working through Habitat for Humanity. So it was a real good experience.
And that's something that we would like to do more of again. We haven't really since we've gotten married.
Yeah.
A few reasons. My health has been whatever. Also, Nolan you have this thing that you would love if we would get into like a mission where it would just be like one instead of like hopping all around and just doing a few weeks here and there and kind of going as a mission, and it's just like basically a fun getaway for you. Not that that's wrong. I think there's a lot of good that's done by that, but he thinks it'd be great if you could find like a mission where you could plug in for a few months every year and take your family with you, and you'd kind of get to know that specific mission, maybe take over for the people that are there and give them a break or something.
Yeah.
And then you also speak of your family.
Yeah, I mean, with my dad passing away and stuff, I've been last year made several trips out there. This year, gonna make one here soon. So that's been a little bit of takes resources and stuff. I would still like as a family to go, to go on a short-term mission trip. Yeah, sometimes that's much harder to actually arrange with children and everything, because if you're going to do something like that, then you want to go over there and be able to be beneficial. All
right, here's a whole bunch of questions that we feel we don't have answers to because we're really struggling with this. It basically all revolves around: how are you as a couple intentional about time together alone without the children? How do you keep your romance alive in your marriage? What are ways that you connect with each other? How can parents reconnect in a marriage after losing the connection from having kids and barely enough time for each other? It's basically all the same. We have no help with a baby, so we can't do a date night outside of the house or things like that. Someone else was like, what are some fun things that you and your husband do for date nights with a new baby? And also, what are your favorite dates to go on together? So it's kind of all a similar thread. I would say we're really struggling with it. We've been trying to get better at scheduling our life. And actually, we want to have consistent date nights, but it's not been happening.
Other people don't fit into our schedule. Well, they don't want to accept our schedule. Namely the children.
Yeah.
Sometimes each other.
Yeah, I get quite busy. Thanks for not pointing fingers at me.
I'm kidding. In other words, we're a miserable failure at that. But
the thing is, I struggle with this so much, is the work that I want to get done myself. I love when the house is quiet and I can do it, so I have this tendency to be like, the children are in bed, everyone's in bed, the house is finally quiet, I can do what I want now. And I love spending quality time, but I have this nagging on, I want to do this and this should be done by this, and I'm trying hard to learn how to control I don't think I'm a workaholic, or do you think I am?
No, I wouldn't say so.
It's just when something needs done, I want it to be done, so it's off my mind. I'll just try to barrel through it, and then we suffer. Mm-hmm. I think our time together. And that's why I love traveling so much, is because there's nothing that's demanding my attention, and I can just unplug and just reconnect with him and my family, and I just love travel for that. Just get away and leave all the madness behind.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's possible to. Yeah, not only possible, but it's essential that as a family, whether you decide on a certain time of the night, you simply,
right,
or else there's a set time of the night where you put your phones and whatever aside, and you do some family stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. We're
just-
trying for
because-
this. We're
because-
striving for this. It's slowly, inch by inch, maybe we're making a little progress.
Yeah.
Once we have it all figured out, we'll let y'all know how
And
it's
as
going and how
I'm
we got there.
sure, you know, some of you parents know, I mean, as fun as it is to go out to a restaurant together and get a babysitter, you think about the kids at home and you wonder how they're doing. And I mean, it's just
It
part
takes-
of being a
yeah.
parent. Like it's still fun to do.
Sometimes
But,
it's almost more fun just to not give them naps and put them to bed early.
Mm-hmm.
And that night is your night together, whether you watch a movie or, you know, just talk or play a game. Like we did that one night where we had like the question game. This is date night stuff now. Just random questions you ask each other, and then it kind of brings up new conversations. That's always fun.
It's fun, yeah.
What else do we like as far as favorite dates? Mostly like revolving around coffee and just exploring little towns. He loves history, so.
Well, that's kind of, yeah, we haven't went on anything that.
No, we haven't, but we used to. When we first got married, he would like go scoping out all the old towns and their history, and I got to see a bunch of new places. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we should do some of that.
Yeah.
Again.
Pretty much a date for us consists of alone time. So if we're just alone together, no matter what we do, it's
Yeah.
good, I guess.
Right.
How do you deal with low self-esteem in each other?
Wow.
He's really good at building me up, like constantly, because I really struggle with low self-esteem. I'm still learning how to get it into this area, I guess.
I thought
Like
it was like how I'm supposed to deal with you.
And my low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's what it's saying. I mean, if we get rid of the self, it's just how do we deal with low esteem in each other, and that changes everything.
Yeah. That's a hard question.
No.
I'm
I mean, I think everyone deals with low self-esteem
Yeah.
to a certain point, and I'm not sure always how beneficial it is to just build up a better self-esteem.
There's a healthy amount, because
There's
there's a
a-
very
there's
destructive low
right.
self-esteem, which I feel, yeah.
What I'm saying is somehow you have to get beyond the self part, because low self-esteem or high self-esteem, both of them aren't real good.
They're both actually kind of pride, aren't they?
Yeah, I
In
mean,
some
I
ways.
think if you can somehow work to, you know, see yourself as somebody who's loved by God, and I mean, the Bible says we're fearfully and wonderfully made, or that's the King James. I mean, there's different hacks, I guess you could say, for working on building up a destructive low self-esteem, but I feel like you're not really ever going to win the battle until you can see yourself from the way God wants you to see yourself.
This whole thing where nowadays people like, I am beautiful, I am whatever, I am. And I think it's good to talk like positively to yourself, because there's a lot of destruction that comes from negative thinking patterns, but there's almost like an over amplified, there is, not almost, in today's culture of just me and accept me for who I am, and I am so great and beautiful, and like just this whole self-absorbedness that I don't think we should flip to that side either. It's
I think it's so easy to just dig yourself out of the hole of low self-esteem, and yeah, I'm not saying you have suddenly high self-esteem, but you're so aware of how better yourself feels, and that kind of becomes the journey in itself, which, you know.
I don't know if that really answered the question, but
That's really confusing. Yeah, I don't know.
Let's just keep moving along. What is the one thing about married life that was totally unexpected, and the one thing that really and truly took you unawares? Boy, it's been so long now since we've been married. Feels like a while. We just went 10 years. On a personal level, I think for me it was trying, and I'm still learning this, just understanding how the way I word things, or the way I say things, and I can tend to be very direct and just sometimes, but the way I say it can be very disrespectful, and it's something I don't even think of, the way you phrase something, you know, that we women might not think sounds disrespectful, and it is in a certain way. So I think that was probably my biggest, like, relating to men in a different way than you would with a woman, I guess, in speaking terms.
Also, one thing that really surprised me was that regardless of what your wife says about how hungry or not hungry she is, she will be stealing your food for what you order. So
That's universal.
I think that's pretty universal.
Shoot. What's one thing you wish you had known concerning marriage that you believe would have saved heartache, stress, etc.? I think that kind of goes with the first one. Not that we had it all figured out, but...
No. I mean, I guess just sounds kind of vague, but the more, I guess what, the more open you are with each other, the more...
Just talk things out and work it through. You're good at that. Trying to clear the air before it turns into something monstrous, which it can quickly. Honesty is key no matter how hard it is. What's the first thing you liked about each other? What was the first thing you didn't like? Maybe we should eliminate the last part.
She is not the kind of girl that just simply likes to sit inside and doesn't like to go out and do fun things. You were actually a lot more that way.
I know, since I've got a YouTube channel, I've been inside a lot more editing and stuff, which kind of drives me nuts. So right now I'm trying to change all that and figure out how to do both in a balanced way.
I married a girl that actually bought a bow. I don't think he ever shot anything with it, but loves to snowboard. That is something that kind of drew me, because I don't know, I think it's I mean, some couples, they make it work. You know, he has his things that he likes and she has things that she likes. And I think sometimes you need to do that sometimes.
Right.
Like, it's good for a guy to sometimes get away with some guy friends and do something, and for, you know, a girl to get away with some of her friends. But I also think when you can do things as a couple and enjoy it, it is pretty neat.
Yeah, someone else had asked what first drew you to me, which I think you answered that. And what did you discover about her after you were married that you didn't know before? And what would you say is her strongest quality? I wanted to hear.
Oh, wow. You can't just dump that question on me all of a sudden. Probably your strongest quality is that when you are onto something, on an idea or whatever.
You're gonna pull that as my strongest one.
It's a strong one.
Okay.
It irritates me sometimes, but it is pretty neat how within a couple days you have the information, you've called the right people, whatever it is.
Well, if you wait too long, the inspiration might wear off.
See, I'm geared to totally different. To me, the inspiration is something that comes with like weeks of thinking about it and
that's
turning
wise.
it over in my mind. No, it's not always wise. You miss a lot of opportunities.
We try to he's really helped me a lot too. So I think we try to balance each other out. And he's definitely changed too, because he's already went on some pretty sporadic last minute stuff that one day he's like, let's just go to Florida. That was back before we had children, and we went off the next day. So that was like the first that had ever happened. I remember being quite impressed. And then the other question, what was the thing that irritates? You know, I never answered, did I? I kind of think, at least for me, like some of the things that drew me to him are both strengths and weaknesses. And I think the same, like for him, he was saying my just go get it done now is also what irritates him the most, right? Kind of.
Yeah.
And so to me, like, it's the opposite. Like, what drew me to him was he's very quiet and laid back kind of in a crowd. And he kind of had this, like, wiseness about him that he still does, because he reads and thinks, and you, like, really... That's what I love. I wanted someone that would, like, challenge me intellectually and, like, knows stuff and isn't just, like, kind of surface level. I wanted someone that goes deep. And so he's very good at being like that.
I don't know. I feel like that one general that was quiet. That's what people think. He said, people think that when I'm quiet, I have all kinds of wise things going on in my head. There's nothing in my head. That's probably
That's not the truth. And so, but then the flip side also would irritate me if he just wouldn't get like on board with my excitement or something, and he'd just be always dragging his feet in certain areas because he would take weeks to think something through, and then halfway through I thought he forgot about it. And are either of you early birds or night owls? Early bird, night owl. I try to tell him every morning that I get up early with him to not talk to me, and he never gets the memo. Because he's just happy and chipper in the mornings. I'm like, don't talk to me for like 3 hours. I'm terrible in the mornings. I hate mornings. I love mornings.
I get up early in the morning, but it's more because it's habit or whatever. If depending on what job I did, I probably could be a night owl.
How honest are you with each other about small things that irritate you about each other's habits? Do you just let it go, or are you able to communicate these without hurting or without feelings hurt? Goodness, I can't read.
I feel like my problem is more I don't say anything, and I don't say anything till I'm so frustrated that I say it in a way that, not very loving or whatever.
And I'd probably just air out too quickly. Yeah.
I mean, I think life's a real balance of small irritations that you do have to just deal with. I mean, I saw a quote once, and I think it must be because a lot of other marriages are the same way, but it said a man's "I'll be home from work in 5 minutes" is the same as a woman's "I'll be ready to go in 5 minutes."
That's about the truth.
And it's, that's yeah, I tend to not be very clear on when I'm going to be home from work, which sometimes it's hard to get a good time on that, but then I find it almost impossible to get out the door in time when we want to go
Especially on a
somewhere.
Sunday morning. The question for you is, would you move your videos to a different platform if something happened with YouTube? And how do you set boundaries with filming and private family life? It's a good question. First off, I probably wouldn't. I'm not just so desperate to keep everything going. Like, I'm actually at the point where I keep praying about it. Is it something that we should stop? I talked to him about it. He doesn't think we should yet. I don't feel either we should. But it has kind of been on my mind a lot lately. Is it healthy for my family? Is it healthy for us? Is it healthy for me? But yeah, I do feel it is kind of what I'm called to do right now in a sense, or what I should be doing. Maybe that's the word. I'm not sure if I can quite explain it, but I am praying because it is a lot of work, and I don't want to rob of my family life, and it has been. So I'm trying to find balance in that, and if I can't, it's going to go out the door. So we're trying really hard to get that in perspective. As far as filming family life, the thing is, I do think about it more now, especially since Xander's getting older, and how it's going to affect him. Like, I try very hard to think about if he were to look at this in a few years or know that someone did this, like, how would he feel? So, like, I try not to put him in any situations where he would be embarrassed. If he's acting really goofy or showing off or crying a lot or throwing a fit or anything like that, I cut that so it can kind of look perfect, but I don't like to always portray things as perfect. But that's one of the reasons. I'm also kind of worried about safety, some, not as big as some people feel, I guess, are as concerned with, but I do try to, like, be careful, and I'm trying to, like, face where the children aren't just too prominent in videos, unless it's like a family vacation. I really want them in because these videos are for our memories too. The other thing people don't realize is I don't film every aspect of our life. I mean, people realize that, but I often get the comment, people saying, like, Xander should be playing with other children and that type of thing, and he could interact more, but he does have friends, but I don't film all his friend interactions and his cousins because we're putting ourselves out there by being on YouTube. Not everyone wants that, or their children, and so I try to respect other people's privacy, and then I always ask them too if they care to be on, or their children. So there's a whole other things that we have that's not always on film. What's been the biggest surprise associated with growing in followers on social media? For me, just the fact that someone would want to follow our lives, I guess. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I guess I'm still, I'm not the techie one in this family by a long shot. And yeah, what makes something like YouTube work, and why people want to watch and follow and subscribe still is kind of a mystery to me, because I don't feel like we are special people really, or whatever. It's just kind of normal people. And
when we started, I did kind of have this, like, vision of just sharing simple family life in a world that's, like, full of drama and trying to, like, make bold headlines and stuff, and a lot of us just crave that simple, especially Christians out there, like, Christ-centered life, and find it inspiring to see other people living that out. So that's kind of was part of my desire with it all too, as well as a very creative outlet, because I love photography and just capturing life. Some of these are more geared towards me. What advice would your now self give to your then self just starting out on social media? Just not take people's comments seriously. Everyone will tell you opposite. They'll give you all kinds of criticism, and you shouldn't do this, and the next person you say, shouldn't have blankets in bed with your children because they might suffocate, and the next person say if they see the baby and with no blankets or anything, then it's terrible, it's so cold and hard and unloving to the child not to have blankets in there, so you can't win no matter what you do, so just let it go.
And then there is a few truly evil people, trolls, and
truly, yes,
people that you just, you really just need to delete and block, and and that's always hard for a first timer to deal with.
It is. And even now it can definitely get to you if you let it. How has opening up your lives on the internet affected you? What are the downsides? Personally, for me, if I could have every single person that I know and family not know that I do YouTube and not watch these videos, I would be happy. Sorry for all you that know me personally. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I would just
probably.
rather have, and I enjoy when people come up to us and say, hey, we watch your videos, and I have no idea who they are. But there's something about personal friends and family that we're not going to dive into it, but I just really wish, depending who, like some are really amazing, and then others you just wish they didn't know. Like, you just kind of wish it was something you do quietly in the background. That's my biggest wish with it all.
There's been a few friendships or whatever that I feel like it's been a bit of a problem or whatever.
Right.
It feels like they look at us differently.
Yeah, exactly. And they say that, actually, any type of YouTube, like if you follow people that are into growing YouTube channels and they have advice and that type of thing, that is a big thing, is they say friends and family is like the hardest one to break through. Just let it go. So, but having said that, I should just clarify, I've had amazing support too. It's just kind of a bit of awkwardness in some situations, I guess. I'd like to know if Nolan has any advice for men in today's immodest world. And she goes on to say, even going to the grocery store, all the immodesty, and how she feels uncomfortable when every other woman is dressed inappropriately. And how do I deal with that? And how does he deal with that? Another question, how do you safeguard your marriage, your eyes, your husband's eyes from the overwhelming amount of temptation?
There's some things out there that I think there's decisions you can make that you make, and then you don't have to make them again. You don't have to keep fighting the battle, whatever. I don't think this is one of them. In other words, I don't think you can just make a decision that will always and forever
Keep you from being tempted in that certain area.
I mean, I think it's something you have to keep doing. You have to keep making the right decisions. You have to, I mean, maybe it involves, I don't know, not going certain places, whatever. But having said all that, that can't become an end in itself either. Like, you need to keep your mind on the positive or whatever. If you simply are just overwhelmed by the negative, and that's true for anything, but I think this especially, I think you're going to struggle to ever get to the point where you feel like you're not just overwhelmed by it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes sense or not. People are just so different. Some people can be in situations that aren't that big of a deal to them and would just be intolerable for the next person to be able to be in. You only have the right to be hard on one person in your life, and that's yourself. And so it's easy, I think, to talk about what worked for you and how that's going to just work for everyone. And that's not, people want to hear your story. They probably don't need to hear your particular rules or guidelines, and you should never say, well, you need to just not go here, or you need to whatever, because you should be very careful with that type of approach.
Yeah. Someone had asked too about how do I deal with it, like being around so much. I don't know. This was something that definitely I was really worried about before we got married, and probably maybe in our earlier married life. Maybe I need to be more. I don't think I'm naturally a jealous type, am I?
I wouldn't say so, no.
I mean, I would get pretty jealous in certain situations, but it's not like every little incident just makes me just come. But when we are around a lot of immodesty, I do get like completely, let's get out of here. But I feel like I trust him enough that, and I need to pray for him more too. Like, I need to pray for you and realize that we're all human, and temptation like gets you face temptation when you go out, and I just tend to be like,
Yeah.
he's strong, he's got this, I trust him. And so I don't feel like I'm constantly jealous, but I would be jealous if I know that, see, his work, like your work doesn't take you, like he builds fence, and he's often out in the country. He's not like in contact with a lot of other women. And I think if that was the case, I'd probably be a little bit more, like if it was just constantly bombarding him like all the time. And I don't feel like it really is with your work. I mean, you go to town and whatever all, but
right. Yeah,
it is part of the society. Yeah.
I
mean, I'm not speaking for you, but
no, it depends a little bit. Yeah, what you're doing for work, and but at the same time, it's like, I just think a married couple needs to focus on needs to focus on the good. You need to be aware of the bad. You need to put safeguards or whatever. But sometimes I think people's married lives become swallowed up in that, rather than married life is awesome, and
Right.
and it really is. And you can, if that's what your focus is, then yeah, some of this other stuff, you don't necessarily have to try to put a lock on every door.
Right, exactly. Here's one more. What is your advice for a woman who has a husband who's been led astray and no longer serves the Lord? How can one submit to that authority under these circumstances?
Well, the Bible talks about that. If he would want to live with her, he could possibly be brought back to the Lord by her example. But also, if, it says God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. And, the connotation being, if he's abusive or, disruptive or whatever, then some separation is probably called for. It's a really hard thing to walk through. I don't have all the answers. It's every situation is kind of unique in itself. But I would say that it's a really powerful testimony, and it's happened over and over and over again, that a husband or a wife, for that matter, has been brought to the gospel because the other one was saved and became such a changed person for the better,
Because of their sacrifice and
Right.
unconditional love. And all right, that wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed. We are hoping to have him on more. I'm going to try to have him on at least once a month with, if we can, or to have more talks and that type of thing. I asked him if he wants to, and he said sure. So
Yeah, I don't
main
really.
thing
I
is
don't want
time.
to. I don't want to come on as Mr. Answers.
No, but people love to hear your thoughts, and they've been requesting it. And I love when he's on too, and it helps me with content as well. So anyway, we'll see you guys in the next video.